Welcome to another episode of the Leaving California podcast. Here we explore the stories of families and individuals who are trying to make the decision of whether or not to leave California for greener pastures. I'm your host, Sherry Harrington, and I'm a real estate agent here in San Diego. And today we have a special guest with us, Katie Heysel, who is a real estate agent from Gainesville, Florida. And Katie's here to share insights about the Gainesville area and tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to moving to Florida in general or her area of Gainesville. So I'm excited to have you here. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited about this. So let's dive right in. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you ended up becoming a real estate agent in Gainesville?
Yes. Yeah. I actually took the real estate course for the first time back in 2006 here in Florida. And then after I finished the course, I actually ended up moving to Southern California. So I
Oh,
have the perspective of leaving California.
wow.
Um,
Okay.
so I lived there for about 8 years. And then even when I was there, I wanted to get into real estate, but by the time I got settled, the market crashed. And so I did other things and then ended up finding my way back here to Florida. And when I got back here, I met my friend Dan, who was a real estate broker. And he was like, I think you'd be really good at real estate. Do you want to get your license? I was like, yeah, I've actually always wanted to. So then about like the end of 2019, right before COVID hit, we merged with another company, which is Gator Homes Realty, and that's where I am now
Nice. What part of Southern California did you live in?
in LA, mostly Culver City.
Okay, I know exactly where that is. So interesting. So almost every agent that I've interviewed on this podcast lived in California at
Oh,
one point. It's
oh,
very, very bizarre, pretty strange. All right, cool. So let's start with the positive aspects of Gainesville. What are the things that you love about the area and some things that we might not be aware of?
okay. So in the last 9 years, Florida has been in the top 4 states where the population has grown the most. So there's got to be a lot of good things here, right?
Yep.
And I think when people think of Florida, they think like beaches and sun and stuff, and it's not all like that. I actually like when I was growing up here, from my house to get to the interstate, instead of calling it the freeway, we called it the interstate. So on the way, it was all like cornfields and cow pastures, but
Oh, wow.
it's developed a lot, and so that's not really at Gainesville anymore. The University of Florida takes up a huge like portion of the city and provides a ton of jobs. There's always sporting events to go to. They have UF, the hospital. We used to call it Shands. Now it's called UF Health. So there's a ton of students who come, and even professors who come from all over the world, which creates a melting pot here in the city. So that is something that is a lot different than the outskirt areas. So we have no state tax in Florida. Yay, that's
That
awesome.
is a beautiful
Um,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Gainesville specifically is a really central location where 2 hours east you get to the beach, 2 hours west you get to the beach, 2 hours that way you get to Jacksonville, 2 hours south you get to Orlando, and
Hmm.
then southwest or south, yeah, southwest you get to Tampa. Like there's a lot, around us. And then within the county we have a lot of natural springs. So you can rent kayaks and canoes and go tubing down the river, and a lot of like more freshwater sports. And, that's just let's see, what was the other thing? The nope, sorry, drew a blank.
What's the weather like there? So like right now, so I'm in San Diego, it's like 65-ish. We're still kind of in the winter mode. What's it like there right now?
So this past weekend it was hot. It got up into like the eight, almost to the 90s, like 87,
Wow.
88,
Okay.
and then it rained. So now this week our lows are like in the high 30s, like 38, 39 at night, and then maybe 55 at the most during the day. So just because it
Okay.
rained.
So it does get cooler there.
Yeah, it's a little bit unusual for us to be still getting cool this time of year. Um, so usually our winter is like 6 weeks. So like, but again, every time it rains in the last couple months, it's like it'll get hot and then it rains and then it cools off. But yeah, the summers are brutal.
Okay. So what would you say the average temperature is in that winter period, like during the day?
Um, Probably in the 60s.
Okay. So similar to here. And then summer, tell me about the summer heat and the humidity.
Yes, yeah. That's in my bad section. So,
Okay.
yeah, hurricanes and yeah, the humidity. So UF, they call it the swamp, right? The University of Florida, like the Go Gators. So they call it the swamp for a reason. It's hot,
Okay.
humid. It's like just muggy and sticky. You go outside and your hair frizzes up and your lenses on your glasses fog up and everything. It's like opening an oven door.
Okay.
So for people who live in places where it snows and the winter is when they stay inside, for us, the summer is when we stay inside. It's like too hot to even go to the pool.
Interesting. So does it get up to like 100 or is it just like in the 90s, but the humidity's out of control?
It gets over 100. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then how about bugs? Do you guys have a lot of bugs?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
It's funny the things that I worry about, right? Because I'm from upstate New York, but I've lived here, most of my adult life. But I feel like the things that we take for granted here are, pretty mild weather, like zero bugs. If there's a fly, people are freaking out. It doesn't rain here for the most part. I mean, we had a pretty rainy winter, but so things like that I'm kind of interested in, like how many what's the bug level and then like how much does it rain, that kind of stuff.
Yep. So it depends where you are. So the more coastal areas, if you live like near the beach, you're not going to have the kind of bugs that we have here in Central Florida. So like the central area is a lot more not within the city of Gainesville, but the outskirts is a lot more woodsy.
Okay.
And there are 7,000 different kinds of spiders, mosquitoes that are, I swear every year the mosquitoes get bigger and they can get through your clothes. They'll bite you through your clothes. So, and snakes, lots of, we have to watch out for water moccasins a lot. And, diamondback rattlesnakes. I've seen one in the middle of the road before. So snakes and spiders are definitely the mosquitoes. I won't even complain. They're annoying, but yeah, the snakes and spiders you got to watch out for.
I did hear that. I think it was Jessica that was talking about the snakes, that like you can't, like here we can, for the most part, like leave our patio doors open if you're having a party or something. I mean, we have the occasional little teeny tiny lizard, but that's about it. So that she did mention the snakes. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, snakes and gators. Like when I lived
Gators too. Oh my God, forgot about that.
yeah. When I lived in Southern California, and there was like all over the news, they had closed off this body of water because there was an alligator, and I was like, "What do you mean? Like, there's swimming pools all the time. It's not. There's actually on the UF campus, the Bauman Center, which is well known for like weddings, and they have memorial services there. But it's this kind of like a little chapel with beautiful stained glass, and it's right next to Lake Alice. And there, I mean, you have maybe 15, 20 feet between the edge of this little lake and the chapel, and they're little baby gators and bigger gators who are just like hanging out right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I've been to Florida many times, but I don't even think I've ever actually seen one because I've only been to like Miami and those areas. So it's probably too many people around for them to hang out. But
Yeah.
that's so interesting. It's so interesting just how different it is there.
Yeah.
Tell me about the rain. Like, how does it rain every day in the summer? Like, that's one thing I noticed when I've been to Miami or like Boca Raton or Fort Lauderdale or those areas. I feel like it rains every day. Like, you get this huge downpour and then it stops.
Yes. Yep.
That,
In months, it's usually about 4 o'clock for 1 hour. Like it'll be sunny and hot all day, and then it just pours for about an hour, and then the sun comes back up and you can see the steam coming off the pavement.
Okay. Does it cool down from that, or does it make it more humid?
It just gets gets humid and muggy.
So crazy. Interesting. All right. Well, the weather sounds amazing. This is so interesting. So, okay, let's get back to the positive things then. So, no state income tax. That is amazing. What about, I don't know if this is a positive thing or not, but tell me about your homeowner's insurance there, because here I know a lot of people are getting their insurance canceled, or it's like doubling or tripling, or, they're not renewing because of the fires here. And then you guys have hurricanes. So tell me a little bit with your experience with people talking about their homeowners insurance and hurricanes in general. Coming from here, like, how did you adjust to that?
So the hurricanes, for us, by the time the hurricane comes up the state and gets to Gainesville, it's usually died down a lot. Like, we have had on occasion, where trees come down in the road and we can't drive, and that's when we have hurricane parties. Like, when I was growing up, the school bus can't get to our house to pick us up because the trees. But
that's awesome.
Like maybe 5 times or less in my life that we've had a hurricane that was like that. Like, the grocery stores will sell out of bottled water and bread, and everyone's filling up their car with gas in case we have to leave, so gas runs out a lot. But the homeowner insurance, obviously it's the whole state, so even though we don't get affected by it here a lot, there have been a lot of companies, especially in the last year or two. Hurricane Idalia was a big one, that down in the Tampa Bay, Sarasota, that part of the West Coast was highly affected, and so a lot of insurance companies pulled out. We actually have a new company coming in that is specific for Florida, called Orange, that's going to be starting. And Citizens Insurance is one that's specific for Florida. And, it's, I don't want to say like not the best coverage, I guess, but it gets you insurance, if you have it. So, and the prices went up a little bit, but it's still, like, $2,200 a month was the last quote that I got for a house that was built in 1950. I just got that quote the other day. So
per month or per year?
Per year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think you said per month. I was like, oh my God. Well, that's not bad. I mean, we're paying more than that here for sure. And I've heard there's a lot of areas of San Diego. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but like Escondido and the areas that are a little bit further inland that are higher fire risk, where some homeowners are paying like $10,000 to $15,000 a year for insurance, homeowners insurance right now. So it's definitely gotten out of control. So that's not as bad as I thought it was. Yeah. But I think it's an issue everywhere, but they're just seem to be taking advantage of it in California and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
For raising rates. How about property taxes there? So here in San Diego County, anyway, it's 1% of your purchase price. And then if you're 55 or older, you can transfer that tax base to the next house if it's more expensive. So you'd be paying less. How does it work there?
Yeah, so this is like from the good, bad, and the ugly. This is the ugly.
Okay.
So Alachua County actually has the highest property taxes in the state of Florida. And the reason being, the University of Florida is tax exempt. So everyone else absorbs the cost. Oh. So still, our average sales price now is like $300,000 for a house. And which, now everyone's like, oh my God, houses are getting so expensive. But compared to California, 300,000, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So the property tax on a $300,000 house is about $6,500 if you don't have homestead tax exemption.
Okay.
And it would maybe be like between $4,000 and $5,000 if you do file for homestead.
Okay.
And then we also have, we call it SOH, it stands for Save Our Homes. It was something that the state of Florida initiated because a lot of like senior citizens, especially in South Florida, when the taxes were starting to go up, senior citizens couldn't afford, their house was paid off, but they couldn't afford the taxes. Right. And they were being driven out of their homes. So now it's kind of like, I explain it as sort of like bearing interest. So the longer you live in your house, the more credit that you build, and it keeps your property taxes lower. And that's also transferable when you sell a house and then buy a new one, as long as you stay, I think it's within the same county, but that credit transfers over and it keeps your property taxes lower.
Okay. So do your taxes there, do the homes get reassessed every year, or is it just based on this? Like here, it's just based on the sales price. It can go up every year, but I think it's like 2%. So really, we don't see that much of an increase. But how does it work there?
Yep, it sounds similar. So every year it does go up a little bit, but if you buy a house, you expect the property taxes to go up pretty
Yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then talk to me about like cost of living, normal everyday stuff like gas, groceries. I know everybody's gas and groceries have gone up, but like what are you guys paying for gas right now per gallon? Do you know?
Yeah, about like 3.79 was the last time, like when I drove by yesterday and saw the sign. It between like 3.25 and $4, depending on the season. In the summer, our gas prices go up a lot because we have a lot of people coming to Florida in the summertime,
Yeah.
especially to Orlando, like Disney World. It's like nuts. Um, so, and then one of the things that I found interesting, like living in California, I can only speak for the LA area, but like getting my nails done was more affordable in California. Here, getting your nails done is more expensive. And, it's been years since I lived there, like 10 years, but here it's like $50 to get your nails done. I could get it done for 15 in LA.
Okay.
And
It's gone up here then. So like for a pedicure here, it's like 35 to $50, which is ridiculous. But is that about what you're paying there?
it's more than that. It would
Really?
be difficult. I mean, 35 would be a good deal to me.
Okay.
I
Wow.
go in there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's super interesting. How about restaurants? Like, what are the restaurants like there? So you lived in LA, so like the diversity of, I see like on the Leaving California Facebook page, people are like, oh, the Mexican food there sucks or whatever. Not where you are, but just in general, other areas. Like, what would you say as far as what to expect for restaurants?
That's a great question. So, yeah, it's very difficult to find good tacos here. There's a place called Cilantro Tacos, and they just opened a second location, and they're like the only authentic tacos. Now that food trucks are becoming more popular here, which, we're like 10, 15 years behind in LA food trucks. We'd go to food truck rallies and stuff all the time. But now that they're becoming more popular here, we're starting to see more authentic, like in.
Whoops, I lost you for a second. Hold on. There you go. Sorry.
All right, no worries.
Go ahead, keep going.
So, the restaurants, like you wouldn't be surprised here to go to a Mexican restaurant and see a cheeseburger on the menu. There are
Okay.
good, authentic restaurants, but they're more far and few between. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about too is airports. Like, what's your accessibility to the nearest? Like, is there a large airport in Gainesville?
We have an airport in Gainesville, and they are doing major construction on it and making it bigger. It's been only 2 terminals for a very long time,
Okay.
and but they're starting to have more airlines use this airport. We mostly use either Orlando or Jacksonville, sometimes Tampa, just because the rates are better, but it's also a seasonal thing. Sometimes like having to pay for parking at the Gainesville airport and flying out of Gainesville ends up costing the same as like paying for parking is like $2 a day at the Gainesville airports.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. It's so interesting how some things are just like the nail thing. Some guys are probably rolling their eyes, but that's an expense, right? And it's just interesting how it's cheaper here, which makes no sense.
Well,
But
like how much
okay.
do you pay for an oil change?
I have a Tesla, so I haven't changed my oil in
Okay.
years. So I mean, we don't have that, so I don't know. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. How much is it there?
So, I mean, easily $100. That was one of the things in California. I feel like I could get my oil change for like 20 or 40. And then here, like things like little everyday things. Groceries, obviously, groceries have gone up a lot in the last year, but
Yeah.
so I used to think that groceries were more expensive in California, and I don't know what things are going for out there now, but we're starting to get more grocery stores like we have Aldi now, which we didn't have before, and it's more affordable.
Okay.
Publix is like our main grocery store, but it's like a little more on the swanky end, which
Okay.
I didn't realize growing up because that's all we had. But or that's
Okay.
with that or Winn Dixie. Um, but and Winn Dixie is more like a Ralph's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
So
mean, like maybe a good standard would be like a loaf of bread here is like 6.99, which is insane to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Trying
I
to
think
think
a
of
loaf of bread here is probably about like 4.50.
okay. Okay. So still ridiculous, but a little bit cheaper. Okay, cool. Let me think what else. Is there anything that you can think of that would just be or was to you like when you moved from LA to there that was just so mind-boggling? You're like, I did not expect this here.
So as far as the property taxes, so with the University of Florida being tax exempt and the rest of the Alachua County residents, we say ACRs. And so the rest of us absorb that cost. So a lot of people end up moving to like the outskirt areas for that reason, like Bradford County, Union County, Gilchrist County, Columbia County, like those are just the ones in the north part. But we have all these outskirt areas that people prefer because of the cost and they're willing to drive into Gainesville for work and events and everything.
Okay.
But when you go to the outskirts, that's where you're getting more into the snakes and spiders. So
Yeah, I bet.
figure out what's important for you.
So
um,
is it the county the taxes are higher in, or is it the city of Gainesville?
it's Alachua County. Yeah.
The whole county. Okay. Okay. Super interesting.
And
So go ahead.
utilities as well. So GRU, which is Gainesville Regional Utilities, the anyone who has GRU for utilities is paying a premium for the same reason. But
Okay.
that one's different. That's only for the city of Gainesville. And then as you get further out, there's other utility companies that are usually significantly cheaper.
So that's another good one. So just like on an average size house or use your own house as an example or whatever, what would you say your average electric bill is? And do people have solar
Mhm.
there as much as they do here? Okay.
So
So
yeah.
do you guys have solar on your house?
We don't here. We're actually in a newer neighborhood, but this house was built in 2007 and it
Okay.
was phase 1. And so there's still new construction going on. And a lot of the new construction houses, it's like a default. They just go ahead and put solar on. Uh,
Okay.
so my utilities here, so I'm not on GRU, and they're about 220 a month. But this same house in the city of Gainesville would probably be double that for utilities.
Okay. And is that for like you're definitely keeping yourself cool in the summer or you're suffering a little bit?
Oh, no, no, no. I
Okay.
like to sleep with heavy blankets, so I put the AC on like 68 at night.
Okay.
I'll be
Okay.
I'll be turning all the lights off and everything, but when it comes to the AC, it's running.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Like, the interesting thing that's happening here is that on top of the already exorbitant costs for utilities and kilowatts for electricity, now they're adding on a flat fee based on your income on top of that. So if you're at, I don't remember what the cutoff is, but like $130,000 a year or more, like your flat fee is $128 a month plus everything they've already been charging you, even if you have solar. So it
Wow.
just keeps going up and up and up. And we have solar, but we have 2 electric cars and a pool that it used to almost cover our bill, but it doesn't anymore. And then when they put this flat fee on top of it, then it's even going to be more. So I know people are trying to fight it right now, but we'll see if it ends up going through or not. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
How would you say Californians are perceived when they move to Florida? Like if somebody's new in your neighborhood and they're like, "Oh, I'm from San Diego," or whatever, "I'm from LA." Like, do people care? What's the perception?
So we actually had, it was in 2022, we had a huge rush of people who moved to Florida. So we had over 90,000 New Yorkers and over 50,000 Californians all moved to Florida in 2020.
Wow. Okay.
So I think that has like changed things a little bit. Like, in my experience, everyone has like open welcome arms to anyone who wants to come down here. I think the Tampa Bay area is really the area that got the most of a population rush. So it has made home prices go up and everything down there. So the Tampa Bay area is beautiful and amazing. There's so much to do and so much really cool history down there. But aside from that, like a lot of people are like, yeah, come on, like it's gotta hurt, to pay all that stuff. So we have no state taxes. Bring it.
Okay, that's cool because I see a lot of comments on the Leaving California page, and I don't necessarily think it's people from Florida, but just saying, don't California or Texas, or don't, bring your politics with you or whatever. And there's so many different reasons why people would move, right? It's not 100% politics. It's, job relocation, moving close to family or whatever. But I have heard, some people that I know that have moved to other states, they feel like they're not welcome, which is kind of sad, but we're leaving here for a reason, right? So hopefully we're trying to go to a better place, but it's been kind of interesting. Is there anything else you can think of before we wrap up? Any words of wisdom for our listeners that are thinking about moving to Gainesville?
So I will say, just because there is a culture shock that happens. So I remember when I first moved out to California and I was with some friends. I worked at Bubba Gump's on the Santa Monica Pier. And so
Okay.
I had some friends from work and we were going out one night. We're all in the car. And one of my friends says, "What brand jeans is everyone wearing?" And they're saying things I had never even heard of before, right? Like now, of course, I know, but like Citizens and all these things. And I was like, who cares? Like, I'm wearing some LEI jeans from JCPenney's. And even one of
Yeah.
them said, fun of me. They're like, "Oh, yeah, Katie looks like she's going to the mall." So we
Oh
are
my
very, like, when we're showing houses, don't be surprised if you have especially male agents wearing like a polo and khaki shorts and like flip-flops or the boat shoes, the Sperry's or
Yeah.
something like that. We are very casual here. So that would
Okay.
be the thing, when Californians come here. It's easy to spot them because they're usually a little bit fancier than us.
That's so funny. What's funny too is that I feel like it's different in different parts of California. Like LA, people dress completely different than people dress in San Diego. I feel like San Diego is way more laid back and LA is like fancier, like you said, right? Like people dress differently. And then you have Fresno, the middle of the state is totally different. San Francisco is totally different. So and I'm sure Florida's the same way,
Oh
right?
yeah.
If you're in
That's
Miami, it's a certain way. And if you're wherever else, it's just the northern part is much different than the southern part.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually going to say that about like when I mentioned the outskirt areas. So that would be more of like a Bakersfield kind of
Okay.
environment. So,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah,
Super.
the main piece of advice that I would have for anyone if they were looking to move to North Central Florida is to choose like what's important to you between like the culture is very different in the city of Gainesville versus the outskirts. So it's like, do you want to pay the higher utilities and property taxes to be in that submerged in that culture? It's also with the university a very great place to buy investment properties.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, we're going to be doing an investor seminar. So that's a good point. Maybe I have you on for that to talk about your area, because a lot of people in California are investing in other states right now because it's just so expensive here to do any type of, rental or those type of hold investments. So that's a good point. I love that. And I would say too, and we talked about this earlier before we hopped on the call, that, if you're able to stay in an area for an extended period of time, like 2 weeks to a month, in the worst part of the year, whatever that is to you. So maybe in Gainesville, it's in July or
Yeah.
August, right? It's probably super freaking hot there. I would highly suggest that. I know people that have moved from the San Diego area to other areas, and they're very unhappy, and they're already moving back after just a few months. And it's hard to move back after you leave somewhere that's this expensive. No matter where you go, if it's cheaper or whatever, it's hard to get back in the market. So if you're unsure, I would maybe keep your house here, don't sell it, rent it out or whatever, move, make sure this place is for you wherever you're going, so that you have a place to come back to. It's just really important. So thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It's been super helpful. And I knew nothing about Gainesville, so I've learned a lot. And I'm sure our listeners appreciate your honesty and just the practical advice. So what's the best way to reach you if they're interested in checking out that area?
Yep. So email, text, or I'm open to all of those things.
What's your do you want to just give out your phone number or your email?
Yeah, I can give my phone number.
Okay.
So area code 352-226-2160.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate you being such an incredible real estate referral partner to me and treating my clients so well. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks.